got a secret. Sure, all the other BCS conferences got more bids, but the only undefeated big league, SEC, SEC, SEC. Hey everybody, doing a little attorney talk here at Campus Insiders. Bonnie Bernstein alongside our hoops analyst Jordan Cornette. And out in Memphis, where Florida is preparing for their Sweet 16 bout with UCLA, that would be our Gators insider, Chris Harry. Chris, let me start with you. Obviously, Florida worthy of its top-line designation, but Kentucky and Tennessee, are they better than we thought? You start the debate.
Well, I think the SEC, when we headed into the season, we knew that there were going to be three really good teams that were probably slam dunks to make the NCAA tournament. It was Florida, it was Kentucky, it was Tennessee. Tennessee, remember, they started kind of slow, but they beat the hell out of Virginia by 35 points in December. And I think along the way, everyone was talking about Kentucky. Well, they're going to be good. There's just these freshmen. They're going to mature. Wait till March. They're not a team you want to play in the NCAA tournament. I think a lot of this stuff is starting to come to fruition. I mean, Tennessee had some bad losses during the regular season, but they really played well down the home stretch and gave Florida all it could in the SEC tournament.
You know, Chris, I'm not that big on it being the measuring stick, the tournament, and how many teams a certain conference has gotten to the Sweet 16. I don't know if that's necessarily accurate. But what I do look at is the SEC as brand of basketball is built for success in this tournament. It's a physical style of defense. They're very tough. They're aggressive scoring guards. Interior, you've got a scoring punch. They rebound well. Look, all of these teams in the SEC still in the tournament, they're no gimmick style of play. They go out there, they roll the basketballs out, and they simply play basketball. And I think that's the difference. You look at past champions in the last 3 years, those teams have the same characteristics. That's what this SEC has.
Well, I want to do a little bit of a deeper dive on Tennessee because I think it's probably the least known among the three. With Bruce Pearl taking the Auburn job and UT going on a run, obviously the Quanzo Martin haters are standing down for a bit. But Jordan, do you think this is a quality team, or do you think relative to maybe other teams they've gotten some cake assignments in the tournament?
It's hard to say they've had cake assignments. I mean, you look at who they've beaten. They've beaten an Iowa team that was pretty good in the Big Ten, a UMass team that was pretty good in the A-10, and a Mercer team that beat Duke in their backyard. So to survive and advance this tournament, I don't care who you are, you're playing tough teams. And speaking of tough, Tennessee is probably the most intimidating team still left in this tournament. You've got Stokes and Maimon down low, who create so many second chance opportunities, make an offense that's pretty efficient already. Increase those percentages because you're giving them a second chance at it. Then on the wings, you've got big athletic guards with size. And I just think this team is built perfectly to make a run in this thing. As you look at this next matchup against Michigan, I may favor them in this game. That's how much of a believer I am in the Volunteers.
Well, as far as Tennessee goes, he's exactly right. I mean, 6'8", 260, you're talking about Maimon and you're talking about Stokes. What Michigan has to do is try to get the game going back and forth because those guys get a little tired as the game wears on. They played Florida very, very close in a couple games this season when it came to one half of basketball. But if the game starts getting up and down a little bit, you get into those guys' legs a little bit, and all of a sudden they're not carving out areas down in the low post like maybe they did in the first half.
It's probably a combination of both. UMass was struggling down the stretch before they got him. Mercer simply did not have the depth or the size to be able to handle Tennessee. Last two questions, guys, are going to be rapid fire. Chris, we'll start with you. Kentucky putting an end to Wichita State's undefeated run. How underseeded do you think they are?
Well, I think they were probably seeded right about where they probably would be for a 10-loss team. But I think they probably should have been seeded a little bit higher. I mean, you just can't prepare for a team like Kentucky. Florida played them 3 times, beat them 3 times. But if you haven't seen how big they are, these aircraft carriers, to borrow a phrase from Al McGuire, you're talking about Randall, you're talking about Cauley Stein, you're talking about Dakari Johnson. If you're not used to playing those guys, that's a tough draw and a tough out this time of year.
Well, Bonnie, I'll go rapid fire here, and I'll say the Harrison twins have been better. That's why this team was underseeded, but now proving to be a higher seed.
Florida, best team in the tournament.
I think, is easily the best team in this tournament. I think they're the favorite to win the thing. Too much balance on this team, too many weapons.
Chris?
Defense leads to offense with the Florida Gators. It's all about their intensity and their passion on the defensive side that gets them out in transition, wears teams down. If Florida plays like it did against Albany, kind of lackluster, they're not going to beat UCLA. If they bring what they did against Pitt, they'll move on in this tournament.
Chris and Jordan, good stuff. Plenty more tournament coverage right here on Campus Insiders, including my one-on-one with the mayor, Iowa State's Fred Hoiberg.